Gratitude House next on CityCorner. I'm Sarah Thompson, and welcome to CityCorner. A local nonprofit is currently raising funds to open a sober living home for women in St. Louis County. It's its first of its kind. It's called GratitudeHouse, and the vision, they say, is recovering women supporting recovering women. We're going to learn more about it all today on today's show. I'm joined by Beth Drewett. She is a co-founder of GratitudeHouse. She's also currently a board member, but also executive director. Some roles will get swapped soon, coming up as soon as this opens. But I am so honored that you're here, and I appreciate you being here to talk about how this is all going, and how it all came together in the first place. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I love being here. Yeah.
So, I love this idea. So first, I will say I didn't realize until I was on your site and reading your materials, this is going to be the sort of first of its kind. There's not a sober living home quite like this in St. Louis County. Is that correct?
You know, Sarah, there was a sober living home for women. It is no longer there. Yeah. So St. Louis County, big region, millions of people, and no sober home for women. I'm a recovering woman myself. I've been in recovery for 3+ decades. And I sit in meetings of rooms daily with women, often, live meetings. We do some meetings on Zoom. And the stories I've been hearing over the more recent years would straighten my hair. What the women are going through, and we're hearing them, they're not making it. So, I'm a prayerful woman, and I sit quiet a lot and reflect and connect with my higher power. And it came through just being quiet. We need to get moving, and we need to get a place where women are going to be almost like how when a baby's growing in its mother's womb. Women need that kind of nurturance for quite some time. Once a decision is made, God help me, I want to get sober. So that's the beginning of what we want to provide. We want it to be safe. We want the ladies to know they're going to be loved and nurtured, and simultaneously be held responsible for their recovery.
I think more and more, I continue to hear these different stories, not just as it relates to the recovery community, but even just broader in healthcare, where we're realizing that so much of what we've thought was based off of studies of men and not women, right? So there's the scientific and the biological fact of consuming alcohol, how it affects a woman's body differently than men. And so I love that, not only is this on a deeper, both an emotional and the recovery process, but even looking at that element that, alcoholism affects women and substance abuse affects women differently sometimes than men. And we know this. We're learning more and more about this and having a platform about this. We've got a video. I was on your website, and it looks great, and it's got everything listed there. And I thought, I love this, and we're going to play some video of that running. You put on here, our philosophy reflects, and this kind of seconds what you just said, until a woman can face the reality of any addiction in her life, other areas of tension and pain cannot be adequately treated. The focus of the total programs is the 12-step model. And so we're kind of looking at all the different pages on your site. Talk about, so you're in the process of getting the home and raising the money, and we're going to get into the fundraisers later in the show, but talk about how this is going to work in terms of, like we're seeing here, the services, where your environment, your program, how it's all going to work in this broader idea of recovering women, supporting women.
Right. Well, St. Louis is rich in recovery. I'll tell you that straight up, because I've been in it for a long time. And there are so many women volunteers that are so grateful that they have lived through that real low down place you are when you come in the beginning. And they were loved into wellness, loved into sobriety. So we really know that that's I think our greatest treasure is women serving women. We're going to welcome the woman across the threshold into our home. We'll, of course, do interview to see if she's appropriate to be living amongst other women. She'll need to be minimally 30 days clean and dry. She could come from home. She could be coming from a treatment program, inpatient. She could be in an outpatient treatment program. She may be what we hear sometimes termed a chronic relapser who just really has gotten so deeply honest with herself. She knows, I'm not going to make it without this kind of support. I don't necessarily want to call our home a cocoon, but a safety net, a secure place, a loving environment. The women will all be working a 12-step recovery program. I can't share about anything I don't know myself, but I'm one of those gals that came in through 12-step recovery. And boy, is it sustainable. You know, it has you make admissions of honesty. It helps you get maybe reacquainted with a God of your understanding or a higher power, whatever you want to call that. And then you begin to do an inner house cleaning. So while the women are going to be in the house, all of this process is going to be going on. The women will all have a sponsor. If that sounds unfamiliar to the community here, it's really like a mentor. It's going to help the woman get comfortable opening up. Because alcoholism, my experience with it is a hideaway disease. It's a disease of hiding and keeping secrets and kind of hiding in shadows. And this opening up, getting comfortable, that's not an overnight matter.
No, and how comfortable do you feel sharing a bit about, before we go to break, your own personal story? I mean, you mentioned you know, sort of being decades long in the recovery community and your work, but what is your personal story? Within the limits of what you feel comfortable sharing.
And I'm very comfortable sharing about it because it's probably the most powerful catalyst of my whole life. I was in a very dark, low-down state of despair. And in the midst of despair at home, I wasn't even sure there was a higher power or God anymore. I just felt I'd gone so far down, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, etc. And I just cried out, if there is a God, help me. And it wasn't like any burning bush or anything like that. But within a day or so came the courage to pick up the phone and call for help. And the first meeting I ever walked into in recovery rooms, a part of me, and it was a room filled with laughter and joy and people like being silly with one another. And then there was a bit of quiet, opened with a serenity prayer. It was, and there was just all these people sitting together. And there was a part of me that wanted to run out of the door. I was hyperventilating. It was a fearful moment, and simultaneously, a new kind of something was touching me deep inside. And today I know what it was. It was the presence of love was saturating the entire atmosphere of the room. And I became comfortable sitting there with people I didn't know. And the welcome, the warmth of welcome was rich beyond description. No one wanted anything from me. It didn't cost me anything.
Yeah. And I think there's something I will say, and thank you for sharing that. I think the one thing from here at the station, we learn a lot when we're meeting people is sharing our stories. Really, it can be terrifying in some aspects, especially if it's something that feels that society is bringing shame to, when it's still something that shouldn't be, right? It's the most reasonable thing and real thing to talk
Right.
about, but that there is strength in sharing our stories, and beyond that, the transformative power, which I do want to get to because you mentioned this a lot on your site, the transformative power of when we share our stories, how it can empower other people. And you've done a great job alluding to that. We're going to show some graphics coming up for how people can find out more information. And then when we come back from break, we're going to talk more with Beth. But first on the screen, I want for anyone who's kind of heard what we've been talking about, and we showed those visuals of the website, please go ahead and take a look at how you can learn more about Gratitude House. It's a planned sober living home for women in St. Louis County. Beth is the co-founder. We're going to talk more about some of your team too when we come back.
Sure.
That's the website. And then if you want to follow on social media, we've got that graphic for you too as well, an active Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter page, as well as website. And then we're going to show something coming up, tease it a bit. There is a big fundraiser coming up on November 4th. We're going to get into the details of it after this break, but it's a fundraiser. It's a tribute to Queen, but it's coming up on Saturday, November 4th at Red Flag. You can get tickets and more information on the Gratitude House website. But we've covered a lot. Don't go anywhere. We're going to have more with Gratitude House when we return. So please stay with us.
There's so many reasons to love St. Louis, you can't pick just one. From the arts, architecture, and culture. An all-new development, including the Cortex Community Center. And you're never too far from great music and entertainment.
So come and experience St. Louis.
Vengo de Honduras. Ya tenía 19 años y no tuve el tiempo de entrar a high school por mi edad. De repente miré un flyer donde decía, termine su high school, y en letras grandes español. Dije yo, ¿será posible?
Yo estoy muy orgullosa porque sí luchó por sacar su diploma.
Este proceso yo creo que no lo hubiese terminado sin la ayuda de mi mamá y de mi hermana. La educación es muy importante y estoy haciendo un futuro mejor para mi hijo.
Encuentra clases gratis para adultos cerca de ti en completatudiploma.org.
Hi, I'm Sarah Thompson, and welcome back to City Corner. Today, I'm joined by Beth Drewett. She is the executive director, co-founder, and a current board member of Gratitude House. Now, Gratitude House is a forthcoming sober living home for women that's going to be in St. Louis County, and really it's first of its kind. It's a unique one in that it's recovering women, supporting recovering women. We've covered a lot of this in the first segment, and I think for this segment, when I was preparing for this interview, I was kind of doing some research and found some stats that I just wanted to throw up to kind of set the stage. So let me start with one of them, because it was sort of surprising that we're not talking about this a little bit more. So let's look at that first one. This was one that came out. It's the National Institute on Drug Abuse, or this one is actually National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism. Research shows that alcohol use and misuse among women are increasing. The next one's from 2021, and it was saying that in 2021, 26.6 million females aged 18 or older, which is 20.4% of the population, reported illicit drug use in the past 12 months. And then we get into some other ones that talk about this is from around 2015, but while alcohol misuse by anyone presents serious public health concerns, women who drink have a higher risk of certain alcohol-related problems compared to men. And this other one, which is 5.7% of women, I switched them, have a substance use disorder in the United States. And that one was from 2015, but different stats that were pulled from the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, as well as one from the National Institute on Drug Abuse. And the reason I put that in there was I thought what was really interesting, and when I was on your site, is that you have the quote from former First Lady Betty Ford, which is, "Society expects a lady to drink, but not to have a drinking problem, right? And we see this all the time, you know, in pop culture and advertisements, especially targeted towards women. You know, the alcohol is a relief, that you deserve it. It's what you get, what you should do, but not looking at the flip. But then flip side, if you have too much of it, something's wrong. You know, the implication that something's wrong with you. And we know that that's not true. But the way it's presented in pop culture and social media and advertising, there is that odd dichotomy. And then what happens is we don't end up talking about, as the stats show, the health, you know, the effects that come from that, right? And that the alcoholism that ensues and chemical dependency. And so I really appreciate how, at least in your materials, you sort of set that up and acknowledge that. Do you want to kind of expand on that a bit more?
Well, let me just say this because it was such a surprise to me. I was unaware of this. It's kind of stark. The way a woman metabolizes alcohol is real different than men. Men have a lot more water in their body. So when two men and women say they're the same size, same weight, everything, they pick up that first drink and drink it. The way that it's impacting the male is already different than the female. I mean, that's a big problem straight up.
Yeah, and I don't think people, the public thinks about, unless you obviously work in healthcare perhaps, or this is an area that you're working, think about that and how the effects of are different.
And as much research that has been done and continues to go on, which is marvelous, we still don't know precisely all that it is that when one woman picks up a drink for the first time and another woman does, it triggers a disease. Alcoholism is a disease. It doesn't in the other one. That's very interesting to me as well. But it's like a light stick of dynamite. And it may not be an immediate noticing of a problem. And by the time that it is a problem, often the woman has lost dignity of herself, respect of herself. Like myself, I had 6 young children. I thought I was worthless. I really didn't even know that I deserved help, you know, because you get smaller and smaller inside yourself. So it takes a lot to be able to ask for help.
Yes.
And thank God for the community of people that have the disease. Like I said, our community here in St. Louis is rich with recovering people.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that too, because were there people, are there specific, it sounds like a lot of people in your journey helped you, but when you talk about sort of getting lost within yourself, who sort of came to your aid?
Well, actually a sister-in-law. I made contact with a sister-in-law who I knew was in Al-Anon, and her husband was alcoholic. She just came over. I asked her to come over and talk to me. I was also an employee at a hospital at the time, and they had an employee assistance program. I don't know how much of those are even around anymore. I don't know. But the combination of those two things got me to make phone calls. I contacted that employee assistance program. I got into a program for me, which is kind of normal. Women are such caretakers. It's women's nature to nurture. I think it's within our DNA. I think it's in our whole ancestry. Women, that's what we know how to do best, is nurture. So to have a disease like alcoholism, where you are falling short on nurturing your children, you're not available when you need to be available, you're sick, you're making excuses, so forth. You know, the disease can take all. You burn a lot of bridges. I'm from a huge family. Most of my family has the kind of denial where they don't really even believe alcoholism could be in our family.
Right.
So I think one of the number one problems we face with our close friends and our family is they don't necessarily believe that we have that particular problem.
Right.
And they wouldn't even know where to tell us, where they could direct us.
And to your point, seeing it as a disease.
Yeah.
But you've been able to come together with so your board members. So you had this idea and did you just
Well,
start?
it was really, I woke up in the middle of the night one night and it was there. You've got work to do, sister, you know. You've been given a great gift. I've been given a great gift. And I need to continually be of service. I have a strong faith. I have commitments. And not because anyone said you have to give away what you have, but I know in my heart I have much to offer to women who are struggling like I did. You know, I sit in rooms with women and sometimes they don't make it. Some of them commit suicide. Some of them just end up revolving in and out of institutions. And it doesn't seem that they're getting the love and support that would really help them sustain ongoing sobriety.
Right. And I think, you know, what I sort of alluded to in the first segment, that your journey, what you've experienced, gives you that ability to really understand what other women are going through, and then to now furthermore have this for the house, for the Gratitude House to have this coming. So I want to mention you've had these fundraisers coming up, and you have a board, a very active board, and great people, it sounds, around you supporting you, really trying to raise the funds to make this happen. We're going to show some of you had one Carter Cash and Klein benefit concert. I think there's some photos from that. So is this kind of your board and your sort of community coming together to say, these are ways that we can raise ways we can raise money to really get us to where we need to have the right amount of funds to get the house
It's
done?
one of the ways. It's actually an individual. He's a really good man. He's advisory to our board, and he loves live music. I mean, he has a lot of passion for live music. So does his wife, who is on our board. And he said, would you mind if we do some concerts to raise funds? Because many of us other women have some other ways we love to raise funds.
I see.
We were like, this is great. Because we are a women's organization, we don't want to leave men out. And he's just a mover and a shaker.
Yeah.
And so we've had some great concerts and raised a lot of money.
That's awesome. I
Yeah.
think we've got some footage that we can play. It's just B-roll while you and I talk of your last one at the Sheldon. And I think we had some of your board members and supporters there. And you were saying this one was really well attended, sold out, or just
That was a full house
Full
at the
house.
Sheldon. Oh my gosh, that was our biggest fundraiser. I mean, it blew us away.
That's fantastic. And then the one we've got coming up, we want to be sure to plug. The one coming up is Somebody to Love, a tribute to Queen. We've got the graphic for that, just so people know. So you can buy tickets to this. If people head to your website, this is coming up on the 4th.
Our website is gratitudehousesdl.org, and that information is there. If people want to buy tickets, it's indicated there how to do that. And if people want to browse through the website to be a little bit more informed, anyone can call me as well. I would talk to anyone.
Oh, that's great. Well, what are the next steps? I know when I was watching some of the footage from the last benefit concert, the goal is 2024, which seems like it's just around the corner. I mean, so are you close to getting to where you need to be, or what are the next steps?
Yes, we're continually going to be because we're a charitable organization, we're always going to be needing money. The women that are going to live in our house are also going to pay rent.
Okay.
So that's because they need to be invested in their recovery. But we're going to raise funds consistently. We're at a place, frankly, where we need to be ready to buy a home.
Yes.
Or, wouldn't it be great if someone donated a house or a convent or rectory that's sitting vacant, maybe in St. Louis County? We're open to that. We know because we experience a lot of miracles in our life. We're open to that miracle.
Yeah. And you never know who is hearing this and receiving this in that way that they may think or know of possibilities if it's not just on the fundraising side, but on the donation side.
What we've been a little bit concerned about is this is what we hear from people. will people want you in their neighborhood? You know, will people want a sober home in their neighborhood? And even though that might bring up concern for residents in St. Louis County, I want to make a promise, and that's coming from my heart. I feel like we're going to add to the community. Our women are going to be beautifying the grounds of the property we live on. We're going to do everything not to stand out. We'll be courteous and respectful. There isn't going to be anyone using drugs or alcohol in that house. Now, there are neighborhoods all over our community that our neighbors are using drugs and alcohol. We don't know that that's the case, but we're in the business of assisting women to get sober and stay sober. I want to say one other thing. I think it's important, along with that physiological aspect of women. Women get sicker quicker. So where it may take a longer time before a man is a chronic, low-down alcoholic, a woman far before. And it's that way that she can't even really metabolize or handle the alcohol to begin with. And it begins to do organ damage. It does psychological and emotional damage. I think that's critical.
No, and
to
I
know.
appreciate that, because that ties into kind of what we were talking about earlier too, even with the stats. It's just we really have to get a better grasp on this, and also have, grace and compassion in dealing with each other as human beings, and nobody's life is the same, and we have to be understanding of that.
And we become restored.
Yes.
We're restored. I mean, isn't that something?
It is something. Beth, I so appreciate you being here. It's not easy for us, I think, sometimes to talk about our personal stories, but what I love about when we sit in studio and with nonprofit founders is that their stories, their personal experiences turn into something that will affect the community for the good. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Grateful.
And thank you at home for watching. Before we take off, I want to make sure we put up the graphics one more time. Gratitude House, a planned sober living home for women in St. Louis County. As Beth mentioned, please go to the website. You can contribute and donate that way. You can buy tickets to their upcoming fundraiser. You can really learn more about what is currently happening and what is in the works. It's gratitudehousestl.org, and the phone number's right there. You can also follow them on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And here's the last bit of information. If you want to support them, you can do it coming up Saturday, November 4th. It's a fundraiser, a benefit concert, Somebody to Love, a tribute to Queen. Should be fun. And again, all the funds are going to Gratitude House. Thank you again, Beth, for being here. Thank you.
What a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you at home for watching, and keep it right here on STL TV Experience.